How is everyone doing tonight? This is week 6, module 6, and this is the last week of class. Okay, thank you, Kelsey. All right, Evelyn, good. Everybody's doing good. One of the things that I forgot to do last week, uh, I have a video, and the only reason it's a video is because I can't find the final file and don't want to sit down and try to recreate it. But I have it in video where I actually did the class for it. Um, I searched for the file, found earlier versions of the file, but never found the final version of it. But what I think I'm gonna do tonight is let you all listen to the video from a previous class. And what it does is it goes over uh, one of the I think it was module 4. And of the 3 cases, it goes over one of those cases and kind of gives you an idea of how I use the tools, like the tool pack and stuff like that, or for Nova to do that. So you just have to be careful about that. Even though I show you that one, that the analysis doesn't apply to all 3 of them. It's only going to be for the specific one that I'm showing you. So it won't be for all 3 of them, but it'll give you an idea of how you potentially run some of the analysis, especially with the data 2 pack. You can you can run different analysis depending on what it asks for. One of the things I did add to the module was the a video on how to add the data analysis 2 pack for this week. Well, you won't really need it this week, but you know, um, where is it? This is going to be that that is data analysis in Excel simplified 2 pack tutorial for beginners. So that's a let me make sure this is a video. There's a link in here. Okay. And so you just click on this link and it'll go through how to set up the 2 pack and all of that information for you. And there's a whole lot of resources on YouTube on how to use it for different analysis. And this is not just for this class because the class is over with, but it's something. It's a nice tool to have in your toolbox as you get better and better at data analytics. This would be one of the quick tools that you can use for a small data set with Excel. So it's in the announcements. All right. What I think I'm going to do is go through module 6 and play that video kind of at the end because module 6 is kind of short tonight. So, all right. All right. So, any questions before we get started on anything? Okay. So, let's go ahead to module 6. All righty. All right. So, the lesson overview for module 6 is going to be by the end of this module, students will be able to compare manual and AI generated results of running a model created for a business problem, combine results from AI and manually created model. And so, what we mean by that is that we're going to look at what you did this past week for module 5. And now we're going to take that same case and run it through AI. And so we'll talk about AI. So, accuracy, precision, attention to detail, curiosity, math, and problem solving skills are hallmarks of great statisticians. Additionally, ethics, integrity, and open mindedness are required to be truthful with data, and calculations are needed to ensure that the results of statistical analysis are dependable as possible. So one of the things, when I read that statement is that you as the analyst, you wanted to present factual information based off of your analysis. When you go into your analysis, you don't go in with a assumption, but you do go in with a hypothesis where you're thinking this may happen versus that, but you're not trying to prove your hypothesis. You're going to let the data do the work in proving, and your analysis, picking the right techniques and things like that. That is going to get your conclusions. So, reflecting on your journey through statistical learning and analytics is needed so that you can know that you are producing results that reflect the reality of data, not someone expectation. So basically, just what I said. Keep in mind that statistics can be misleading for a few reasons. Okay, challenges exist with visualization of the results, calculation errors, or misinterpretation can reduce the trust others have in your results. So once you put your information out there, and for whatever reason, people find that information not to be true, and it looks like they're trying to be deceived, that's going to mess up your reputation as an analyst. Because now people are not going to trust you. Okay. So as we explore using AI and manual efforts to produce statistics, how do you know if your answers are correct based on the data you have? Just because you get an answer does not mean it is correct. It is just an answer. So, how do you avoid this in your statistical work? So notice we talk about now, we will briefly explore the importance of verification, validation. Okay, these processes give you feedback regarding your work. Verification asks the question, based on the requirements in the data, are your answers correct? Excuse me. Validations ask the question, do your results actually answer the question correctly? And so it gives you some things that you can do for validation, gives you some things that you can do for verification, and then validation. And then it has this little centerpiece where some techniques overlap between both of them. Like these techniques here: testing, regression tests, system tests, beta tests. Those are things that you would do for verification and validation. Okay. All right, and so this week assignment allows you to build a model for a problem and then have an AI model the same problem. With both approaches producing, will both produce. I can't even talk. Will both approaches produce the same results? And then reflection and beyond. So notice there is a step in which your findings are communicated to the requester, and so the results are typically presented through tables, charts, or other visualizations to the audience, even if that audience consists of just one person. Reflect on what it means to give statistics and analytics to a requester. You are now accountable for those results, right or wrong. And so, never stop learning. And I would say that that's true. I'm learning to this day. One of the advantages of teaching, it keeps you in that learning mode. You know, so, and then it reinforces and reiterates the concepts because you're doing it over and over and over and over again, and the students bring a unique ability of taking that information and have you to dig deeper for a better understanding, because students are going to have different questions as they consume the information, and it's going to really be based on their background, their experience. And so that's the way you keep learning as an instructor. And then the module 6 assignment. I don't know how that jumped from that to that, but okay. So as you can see, this presentation is very short. Now we're into the module 6 assignments. Okay, let's go through those. And so your module six discussion, reflection, and moving forward. The discussion will be completed in two parts as usual. The first part submitted on Thursday night, second part submitted on Sunday night. The discussion question for this week is for this discussion, you will reflect on what you have learned throughout this course. Consider the various topics, concepts, and discussions that were covered, and then address the following. Identify your greatest takeaway and how it has impacted your understanding of statistical learning and analytics. And two, describe how you plan to apply what you have learned in this course to your current or future professional role. And three, respond to at least two of your classmates' posts by offering additional insights or asking further questions about the contributors. And so you see Kelsey's response, um, and notice that she has a in-text citation. I was just making sure she had two in-text citations. Okay, so um, so use Kelsey's as an example. Um, that's the discussion for this week, and then running the model. So notice here it says for this assignment, you will prepare a deliverable of your choice. In other words, a written document, a brochure, or a slide presentation. Make sure you keep your slide presentations, excluding the title page and reference page, you to no more than 10 slides. And then there will be a total with the title and reference of 12 slides. So notice it says you're going to take your deliverable of choice and you're going to compare manual and AI generated results of running the model you created for your chosen case in module 5. So you've already did the manual part in module 5. Now they're saying you're going to basically take that and run it through AI. So please see the specific instructions below. Your completed deliverable should comply with APA writing requirements. To find guidance on APA, you can go to the course home. Okay, so this assignment allows the use of generative AI. Please see specific instructions as well as the AI use policy below for guidance. Okay, so your instructions are going to be uh, last week you constructed a functional analytical model in Excel that could be used to answer the questions associated with your selected case. So this week, you will compare manual and AI generated results of running the model you created for your chosen case from Module 5. Please review the guidance and resources provided in Module 6 lesson before working on this assignment. First, manually run the model you created in Module 5 in Excel, and you should have done that last week. Then run the model using any generative AI tool you like, ChatGPT, Copilot, Gemini, or something else. And to run the model in any of those generative AI tools, it's going to be pretty much the same. You can access Microsoft Copilot as part of your Office 365 subscription provided by Indiana Tech. You are welcome to use other generative AI tools, but you should not have to pay for these tools. And they are pretty much free. If you look right here, where is it? Ask Gemini is Chrome version of generative AI. Okay, so it says create a deliverable of your choice, written document, and so on and so on. This gives you some examples of how to do that. In your deliverable, compare the manual and AI generated results of running the model. Then combine the manual and AI generated results and present this visually. In other words, with screenshots of the results. Then provide commentary analyzing the quality, appropriateness, and the completeness of the combined results. Include in-text citations and references as needed, as well as the URL for the images used. You're going to submit your completed deliverable below. If you have any questions, please let me know. So notice here, this is the AI use policy, not permitted, comparison of the manual and AI generated results of running the model, combining the manual and AI generated results, and presenting the visual screenshots of the results. Commentary analyzing the quality, appropriateness, and completeness of the combined results. Okay, document AI use. And so notice that the permitted use is running the model using a generative AI tool such as ChatGPT, Copilot, Gemini, or something else other after first running it manually using Excel. So basically, with the generative AI policy, that's fine. But how many people have Kelsey or Ivalyn? Have you ever used AI to do anything like running this model? Okay. Let me bring up Gemini. Hold on a second. I'm just trying to get it to open up as a tab. Where is it? Where? Oh, here it is up here. I'm all in the wrong place. No, that's not what I want. Pop it back out. I always have a I always have a hard time trying to get it to open as a tab. Uh, hold on, hold on.
Hi, I'm
Nope, won't do
Gemini.
that
We're
right.
about to go live, where you can explore complex topics or ideas just by
No, Mr. Gemini. Right. I got it. So let me move it over so you can see it. All right. So this is Gemini. All right. And this is like with all of them. And what I mean all of them, I'm talking about all of the generative AI tools. What you can do is I will go to the problem. Let me see. That's not what I want. All right. So this is what I want. So this is the module 6 assignment, and this is Gemini. I'm trying to get my other one there. window open. All right, so that's the assignment for Gemini. And so now what I want to do is it's telling me here what to do. So I'm going to come down and grab the data set for this week assignment. So notice the data set for this week assignment, module 6, I have to go back to module 5. Okay? That's what the data is going to be. It's going to be in the module 5 assignment. So I come down here, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do the college admission since we're already on there. I'm going to download this data file here. Okay, let me go back because really I want to download it. I don't really care about viewing it right now. And I think I may use the sales example, I think. Come on. Okay, this is the module 5 assignment. I'm gonna use the sales. I think the data set is smaller. All right, so this is my data. So now what I'm gonna do is come over here to Gemini. I'm gonna hit this plus sign here and notice it has files. So I'm gonna click on files. It's gonna take me to my data. I'm gonna select that file and do open. And what you'll notice is that it uploaded my file. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is come down here and I'm gonna select this information here. Here. Copy the data, and I'm just gonna ask Gemini, basically, can you analyze this data, or can you use the, I'm just going to say, can you use the and this is what's called prompting, you know. So I've given it a data file, which is this sales analysis. Now what I'm going to do is take that information here. I'm just going to put a colon. And now I'm just going to just paste that down here. And then I'm going to hit apply. It's going to start processing it. And so you just wait for it to analyze. It's going to take it. It looks like it's going to take it a little second. Okay, so notice it came back and it gives you an analysis. You know, if you wanted to see the code, you can click on that. But notice this is the analysis. So, you can go through this analysis. It talks about the overall data set sample size, average purchase, so on, income impact on purchases and satisfaction is here. Your satisfaction score, gender versus the purchase amount is here. Repeat the behavior, and it goes through all these analysis. Satisfaction score interpretation. It gives you a satisfaction score interpretation, and then the overall shape of the data. Okay. Now, say for example, um, that's the basic analysis, but you know, I can say something to the effect of, "Can you break out an analysis for each of the five bullets?" So then I hit that and I'll get some more analysis. And so notice that it goes through and it started answering the question: Does gender indicate the number of purchases? So notice it goes through that analysis. You know, okay, that's how you would use generative AI to answer your questions. Any questions on that? Are you all still here? All right. I'm trying to find my window. All right. So I started on this assignment last week and I've been using Copilot. I've used Copilot in a previous assignment as well to help with the graphics class chart. Apparently, need an Excel refresher. Yes. Yes. Okay. So, any questions on what I just showed you from a starter on Copilot? Not Copilot. Gemini. And Gemini, like I said, you can do the same exact thing with Copilot. Okay, everybody, is everybody okay? Sounds good. Okay. Now, like I said, sorry, I have a video that's more on the side of an Excel presentation, but let me see, where is it? I think this is the video. Okay, let me go back to. It's probably like about 10 or 15 minutes long, but it kind of touches on the data analysis two pack and things like that. I would grade those discussion, and you met the requirement of all earned grades. All right. So let's look at the module for learning. I thought I had it. The data has 17,399 rows. Or hold on a second. Let me pause this. There's an add-in. Okay, class. So at this point, what I'm going to do is I did a video in a previous class on the module. I think it was module 4 or 5, but it's the analysis for that in Excel, and it gives you like a nice, clean way to lay out your data in an Excel spreadsheet. With the formulas in Excel, that's going to be showing your work. And so take a minute to look at this and see if it's helpful for you. So I'm going to start playing it. And I don't think it's the video I posted in the announcement, Evelyn, because I hadn't. I need to try to download it, and then I can put it in the announcement. So, but I'm going to put my earpiece up to the speaker. If it's too loud or distorted, just type in the text box to let me know. Hold on a second. Okay, yeah, specifically this file here. All right. Now, if I go back and I look at the data, this is what we have. The first thing we do is we go through and we do some descriptive statistics. And so notice that you got to show your work. So this is how you show your work in Excel. If I click on this mean value here, notice this formula here. Notice that it says data exclamation point A2 to A100. So notice this tab is called data. So it's pulling this data from column A. So if I look at column A, notice that that's the information for net profit. And I'm going from number 2, row 2 is basically what that says, row 2, column A. A2 is column A, row 2. So I'm pulling that data from A2, this 1.5, all the way down to 101. Okay, so you see that's the last data point in that data. So that's how I got the descriptive statistic for the mean for net profit. I did the same thing. Notice here, data tab B2, 1 from 2 to 101, and that's the mean for counter sales. And then the same thing for column C, 2 to 101. So if I go back to data, notice that you're going to see that that's what that refers to. Thank you, Denise. She said the video was very helpful. And so notice this is column A, this column B, this is column C. So I'm getting the mean for all of those. Notice also the standard deviation. I'm just using this function for standard deviation. So it's going to get the standard deviation for the net profit to counter. Notice that it's B. Notice that this is C. All right. And then I want the minimum value. Then I want the maximum value. I'm going to say the minimum value for all three of them. You see that? And then the maximum value. I go through all three. Now, what did I learn from this? So notice that counter sales have higher average volume. Average means mean. So if I look across the mean, who has the highest mean volume? Now, when I'm talking volume, I'm talking sales volume. So notice here, counter sales has 6.523. So it has the highest. Drive-through has the highest variability. Okay, potential for growth. So if I look here, Drive-through has the largest variability. Okay. And then net profit varies very moderately. So notice when I start looking at the net profit, you know, it's going to vary like 0.4. So they ain't doing a whole lot of swinging around compared to the other two. All right. Any questions on that? All right. So next we're talking about correlation. Why are we interested in the correlation? Because we're going to talk about, it's going to give me some information about how close they're related. So notice that both are positively related to profit. Okay. So when profit moves up, so does consumer sales. Notice when profit moves up, notice that drive-through sales move up. Notice that both of them have a positive correlation. Okay. So when one go up, the other one go up. That's what that means by positive correlation. If they were negatively correlated, and depending on what this number is, anything over 5 is going to be like, kind of strong. So these are strong positive correlations. Okay, but notice which one is the most positive. Okay, so when net profit goes up, it has a bigger impact from the drive-through sales because it's 0.7 or basically 0.8 to 0.7. All right, that's the correlation between them. Notice drive-through has a stronger correlation. This is where I ran the regression. And I just put it over here in this spreadsheet. Did I? Yep, I did it like here. All right. And so notice here, when I look at the regression, I run regression and I get the regression table here. All right. Now, in order to run that regression, I would go over to add the analysis toolkit from that video. I click on data and it lets me run all of these analysis, all these different types of analysis. Descriptive statistic, that just go select my data and I can run a descriptive statistic. A regression, I can go get my data and I can run a regression. And it's not that hard. If I click on it, notice I clicked here and I went over to the data tab and put the data in from A1 to A101. And I put A1 because I put a label on it so I know what I'm looking at. And I'll show you what I mean. So here, notice I got label selected. That's because I got the column header in A1. So that's why I put labels. If I didn't have labels, I wouldn't put that. But I want a label because it's going to give me that information in my results. And notice that this says the y-axis. I told you that the net profit was y. So notice it goes from A1. Notice A1 is this header here, net profit. And then I go all the way to the bottom, which is 101. That's what this is showing. That's for the y range, my dependent variable. And then I put my independent variables in here. Notice that I selected both of them. I selected B and C. So I just took my cursor, put it here, select both of those, and dragged it all the way to 101. And it got both of my X values. I don't need anything else. I just said a new worksheet. That's why you see this. So if I hit new worksheet, it's going to put another worksheet in here. I don't want another one, but I can delete them. It's nothing. And you just hit OK. Notice I got to say here with this data. All right. So I got the worksheet. I got the regression information. It ran a regression analysis for you. And now, go ahead and delete this one. Now you're looking at all of this data and trying to make sense out of it. All right. And so notice I have the final equation. In other words, the net profit equals negative 0.209. That's my intercept. Well, where would I get the intercept from? If you look at this table, what does this say? Intercept. So notice it's negative 0.209. And then, so I know that's my intercept. And then I know my coefficient for counter sales is 0.0875. I just rounded it 3. Notice that's why I added the label. So I know this is countertop or counter sales. And then the last thing, plus, notice plus, and then it's going to be 11.1123 times drive-through. That's it here. All right. Any questions on that? Where are we supposed to run all of the statistical methods for each of the problems? I'm not sure what you mean. Oh, you said were we? I thought you said where. Were we supposed to run all of the statistical methods? That's the only way you're going to answer the question, Ashley. I don't know. How did you answer your questions if you didn't run the analysis? And the other thing is it asks you to submit an Excel spreadsheet. So if you didn't run the analysis, or did you submit an Excel spreadsheet? Okay. When you finish typing, I look back. I did descriptive statistics and correlation, but not regression. Well, regression was going to be the most important one of those. But yeah, this is what you should have been close to, something like this. Yeah. Yeah, all of them should look like all three analysis is going to kind of fit this format, but of course the data would be different depending on the analysis on the data. But it should have followed this format in terms of these sequences of analysis. Now, some people may have ran different analysis. Doesn't have to be exactly like this, but it has to make sense. Okay. And so the coefficient of counter sales is the 0.0875. The coefficient of drive-through sales is 0.1123. So notice drive-through sales has the largest impact per unit. Okay. So for every unit of sales that came from the drive-through, it's going to be higher than the counter sales. Also, you got your p-values. These are your p-values here for the counter and what you call. Notice that these are to the negative 10 power. So you got to take it 10 places to the left. That's why it says less than 0.001. Notice this is a negative 17. So you got to take it that decimal point 17 places to the left. It's 0, but it ain't quite 0. That's why they said less than 0.001. Notice that both are statistically significant. And what they mean by statistically, I can't even talk. Statistically significant is that they are graded. They didn't tell us what the test is at, but assuming that it was 0.5 or 0.01, the alpha level was 0.5 or 0.01. So since the p-value is much less than that, they are statistically significant. And then we looked at the R squared from the regression, because the R squared is going to tell me whether or not that model, and when I said that model, I'm talking about this model here. Is this a good model? And so notice what R squared is telling you is 0.75 or 75.7% of the variation in the data can be explained by the model. So notice that's what I'm saying. It explains most of the profit variation. This model does because of the R squared of 75.7%. Then I think it asked you to predict something at 59. Did it ask us to do that? Thought I saw something about 59. But anyway, what I did is using that formula And that's the regression formula. I'm using this regression formula here. This formula here. I'm going to look at the counter data, and I'm going to look at the drive-through data, and I'm going to estimate what the net profit will be or would have been based on this model. So that's what the prediction is doing. So it's going through and taking, this is the regression data. These are the coefficients for my terms. That's what you see here. That's the intercept. F1 is the intercept, which is this value here. F2 is the, I think, counter 0.08. Yep, that's counter. 0.0875 is counter. 0.1123 is drive-through sales. So if I go back here, I just went through and notice what I'm doing. I'm taking this data, that's F1. This is F2, which is this value here, times B2, because this is for the counter. I'm predicting what the profit would be. And then this is F3 times C2 here. All right. And then I get a predicted profit of 1.39. Notice that the actual profit was 1.5. That's all I'm doing. That's what this whole row doing. So it's predicting it at any level. But I think I saw something or remember something about 59, and that would be the value for 59. 0.92532. Must be in my, I estimate that somewhere. I can't remember where it is. It may be in my conclusion. So that's a prediction. And then the conclusion is here. So notice this is the question that you were supposed to answer. Should we increase the number of drive-through lanes? So the business implication, what this means. So for every 1 unit in counter sales, profit is going to go up by 0.0875. Notice for every 1 unit of drive-through sales, then the profit is going to go up 0.1123 profit. Notice that the drive-through generates more profit per sale. Okay. Now, what is the question that they're asking me? Should we increase the number of drive-through lanes? Based on this, what would you say? More than likely, you're going to say yes, right? We should increase the drive-through lane because it's generating more sales, more profit for every unit sold. So notice here, the final answer is the regression analysis shows that both counter sales and drive-through sales significantly net profit, impact net profit. However, drive-through sales have a stronger effect with a higher coefficient, 0.1123, compared to consumer sales of 0.0875. Additionally, drive-through sales have a stronger correlation with net profit. Okay, so 0.793 versus 0.698. So the model explains approximately 75.7% of the variation in the net profit, indicating a strong relationship between sales channels and profitability. So based on these findings, increasing the number of drive-through lanes is recommended as the drive-through sales contribute more efficiently to profit and have a greater overall impact on business performance. So that's what the expectation was. All right, so that's the end of the presentation. I hope that helped you all. Seems like you all was interested. I see both of you stayed. So, but that's, notice how that's the presentation of the information. Notice how I laid it out. Notice it's clean. My data is not all over the place. That's easy to follow. So, now one of the things I could have done is like on my tables, I could have went back and put like the tables in APA format and stuff like that. But you know, that's the potential of what the assignment could look like. Does anyone have any questions? Wait for Kelsey to finish typing. Okay, thank you, Kelsey. Okay, all right then. So, if there are no other questions about anything, that's going to be the conclusion of tonight. Um, and this is the last week. So, everybody have a good night and a good week. All right, everybody take care.